Hello, hello. My name is Marrow. And this is my SGDQ 2018 submission for Mii Force any percent. Alright, and now before the timer starts, we are going to set up for basically the thing that allows for big time save in the run. And that is having our weapon pods for the first level be handpicked before the timer starts. And the weapons we're going to pick are 3 light blue weapons. This weapon is called the Rippling Wave and is one of the most versatile weapons, or is the most versatile weapon in the game. It's got great damage, great range, and it's just overall super good. And since the first level is just the tutorial level pretty much, we can just breeze right through it. So without further ado, 3, 2, 1, go. So the reason... So this is Mii Force any percent. Technically, it would probably be New Game Plus, but the only thing that changes is the ability to skip cutscenes. So we just allow it up front, rather than having to separate it off into categories that really just add up to less total gameplay. So this game uses a very unique weapon system, which we unfortunately don't get to see a whole lot of in this level, because we've gotten all the weapons we're going to get so far. Now this is one of the StreetPass games, so back in its heyday, this would be used with StreetPass tags, but as that's not something that can be set up feasibly, especially for like as often as a speedrunner might reset, although that wouldn't happen in a marathon setting of course, we are instead using play coins. And that is the reason we bought 3, because when you buy 10 pods at once, it costs 20 coins, but buying 3 separately only costs 9, which gives us an 11 coin budget to set up backup strats for weapon-specific time saves later on. This first level doesn't really have a whole lot going on. You know, it's just kind of the first level of the game. Coming up though, this is an invincibility pickup. And we're gonna have some useful tricks for these slightly later on in the run. But at the exact moment, we're just kind of getting rid of these birds here. Gotta pick up those gems quicker to force the screen to advance. And this is the first boss. We're gonna see a lot of him, because while he's the first boss now, he's gonna be a common enemy in later levels. Alright, and that is 1 level complete, 14 to go. Yes, that is the cutscene we just skipped. It's probably like 30 seconds long with Japanese text. Japanese text is faster, which will come into play in a handful of levels, but to be totally truthful with you, this capture card was also about $50 cheaper than a European or a US one, so I went for it. Alright, so this game was developed by Goodfeel. You might know them from their work on Epic Yarn and Woolly World. Kirby's Epic Yarn, Yoshi's Woolly World. It has that same sort of feel, just a more intense kind of game. So the weapon we have right now, called Ensnaring Plasma, it is probably the second best weapon in the game, because while it can't do as much as Rippling Wave, it can do one set of things incredibly well. And that is grabbing things from afar, and when you level it all the way up, which in this game, you have up to 10 weapons found in pods throughout the level. And when you pick up those pods, you can either press B button to immediately send them to an empty slot, as I just did with that bomb weapon, or you can have them go behind a weapon you already have, and that'll make it stronger. Like, as you can see now, the plasma ball is like 3 times as big as it was a second ago. Speaking of balls, the green bouncy ball is an okay weapon. It doesn't have any particular use in this speedrun. It is a little convenient for later levels with tight corridors because it'll bounce off of level geometry, but it doesn't have particularly good damage, and it's not any boss's specific weakness. And the black weapon that you see is the bomb, as mentioned. It is a little slow to fire and kind of hard to hit with, but it does great damage when you connect. And as you can see, as I'm picking up more pods, these weapons are just getting stronger and stronger. Actually, I didn't mean to get that text box, but when you switch weapons outside of picking one up in the first world, you will get a text box. And it's not the world's biggest deal if you absolutely need to do it. But we are going to skip that green pod over there, because when you pick up a weapon, or take damage, or stop to switch weapons, the screen stops, and it takes up a little bit of time. So we're going to try to minimize doing that, if possible. And this boss here, I for one like him. I'm sure he's well-meaning enough. But we can just go behind him. I don't know if this was intended or not, but he has no hitbox on his back area, and you can just go behind him and pretty much be safe. Alrighty. So there would be time for donations in this time here while I am purchasing pods. There's a handful of levels where I would like to explain what I'm doing, but I would let you guys know in advance, and those levels are also a fair bit out from right now. I just wanted to have that for you guys to know. Because, like, compared to, like, Ultimate Angler, for example, the animation for buying 10 dogs in this case, 10 dogs, 10 pods, it is considerably longer, and there's, you have to have, you know, the heroes via play coins in order to play the game at all, so it's just kind of necessary. Alright, so this purple charge shot I just picked up is a very, very bad weapon, because in order to charge it, you have to stop firing, which sounds good on its own, but then you start picking up other weapons, and you could do more damage in less time by having those weapons fire. But because of the upgrade system, we can use purple for something, and that's powering up much better weapons. The orange I have there is called the piercing laser. Much like plasma, it can shoot through walls in very specific scenarios. It can also pass through enemies and continue to fire. Some enemies with big enough hitboxes will act like walls, which is a little confusing, but it'll just keep going. That's only at level 3 though. And the dark blue missiles I picked up, they're called the hunting shark. And they are exactly what they look like. They hunt down enemies and they take them out. When fully upgraded, they will do burn damage to certain types of enemies, which is going to become really useful in a later point of the run. Another invincibility pickup right here. But we don't even have to shoot these guys. Oh, that's right, there is a pickup right there. That's oopsie daisy. Now there's a reason I've been holding onto this orange out front in particular, despite it not being as versatile a weapon as, say, light blue, but we'll see in a second. I am holding R here to double animation speed in cutscenes and automatically skip through text. And you can see here that, oh goodness, that the laser shot is passing straight through and just destroying. It was passing straight through the shields and then destroying that little core in the middle. And then once the shield was gone, I could go in with Rippling Wave and the homing missiles and just kind of clean up. Oops. And the level will not advance until all the gems have either been picked up or faded away. So that's why we try to pick them up as quick as can be. Even though the score doesn't make a difference. And of course, this time again would be good for a handful of donations. Not a whole lot to say here, I'm just kind of paying attention to the weapons I get in order to try to best figure out how to go through this level. Oops. A little bit of mismenuing there. In the base game, you can go to World 3 before you go to World 2, and you can kind of mix them up, doing whatever order you would like. You know, like you go from 2-1 to 3-1 to 3-2. But you still need to clear them all before we go to World 4. For the sake of the speedrun, we say you just gotta do them in order. Alright. And this level's gimmick, I suppose, is that these blocks will fall, and when they fall, the second layer will cause you damage. So this is a good time to talk about this brown weapon. It is called the Harpoon Gun. Not only does it have a shot, which does okay damage, but it has this very powerful melee attack on the front part where the spike is. And the thing with this spike attack is that it'll knock you back from wherever you are standing. Oh. Probably have the weapon out if I'm talking about it. Got the invincibility, though it doesn't really matter at this point in the level. And while orange is useful for clearing out the blocks in this level, it's not super useful for the boss. So now that I'm done explaining it, I am going to switch it out. You're gonna see me put dark blues and light greens on the sides generally. For homing missiles, they will kind of curve into the enemy if you're at the proper distance. So there's no reason to put them in the middle and potentially miss with a better weapon. And then light greens, you can... when you change directions with L or R, because this game was before the new 3DS's C-Stick was available, what you can do is set the lock the plasma onto an enemy, and then have that enemy, or then change direction one more time, and the enemy will continue to get hit by the plasma and full force by whatever weapon you have up front. So there's, generally speaking, no reason to put oh my goodness. Right. So, as mentioned, we're going to try not to take damage. I usually don't get hit there, but sometimes the attacks just come out a little quicker than you can react to them. But we did have plenty of decent weapons, and that boss was already at very low health. So in this particular scenario, it didn't make a whole big deal. Alright, so for this level, we are looking for the flamethrower. That is what the red shirt dog would give you. And we did not get it, unfortunately. It's not quick enough to warrant buying one with the budget we saved up from 1-1, but it does help if you get it. And unfortunately, we did not get it this time. So this level, I haven't played a whole ton of shmups, but I haven't seen many, if any, that have a tower defense section like this. Now the name of the game here is to pick up our pods, take out these waves of enemies, similar to a normal shmup, but they're the ones moving around us, instead of the other way around. And so our main goal here is to just clean out these waves as quick as can be. There are slight differences in when the waves will show up. It's not immediately noticeable, but it will add up if, like, I were to take these waves a little bit slow. They're generally not very difficult to get past. Alright, and we do have these pods flying in. They're giving us the light green, which is helpful for the boss in this stage, because it does have, spoilers, it does have multiple heads. Alright, and this white saw blade is called the Cosmic Cutter. It's a very useful boss weapon, as well as having limited application when dealing with energy-based projectiles, which are the ones that have, like, the bright outlines around them. And these saws also have a bright outline around them, because these saws, when powered up, can not only destroy projectiles, but continue to fire afterwards. Most of the time you would just, like, clank with it. Is that the word? Like, you'd shoot the saw blade, an enemy would shoot their projectile, and then you'd both kinda have no projectile for that moment. But with how fast it goes, sorry, not how fast it goes. With level 3, you can continue to blow past projectiles, which, of course, as I've said, will be useful in later levels. Unfortunately, we didn't get any fire-based weapons, because those would allow us to get a quick kill on this boss. Oh, that's not quick. And help avoid some of these phases. Like, whatever phases... Okay. There... Oh my goodness. I have not seen this phase in a long time. And unfortunately, with this level, sometimes the gems will fly off screen and the camera won't follow you, so you don't get a chance to pick them up. So that's usually a handful of seconds lost. It's no huge deal, though. Alright, so for the first time in the run, I'm going to purchase a pod. Now, this Mii is a special Mii, but the reason we're purchasing him is mainly for his shirt color, because he gives us the bomb weapon, which is not only useful for unlocking an alternate path, which is much faster, but it is also useful for getting a quick kill on the boss. And considering we didn't get any other weapons that could handle that, being light green or orange, it's for marathon safety that we picked him up. Because the quick kill looks really cool. Now, something with special Miis is that they have this little satellite that will follow you around pretty much the direction you were just going in. And enemies in this stage will eat a bomb. If it, it shoots them in the head, they'll just eat it. Similar to Dodongos in Zelda games. I'm sure that had to be an inspiration, but I didn't make the game, so I don't know for sure. And not only can the enemies do it, but the boss can do it, and it will put her in a stun state, which will help us take care of her much quicker. We got another light blue, which I'm just going to pick up for damage purposes. Help us keep these weapons safe. Because at the moment, there's a 1 in 3 chance we could lose the bomb if we were to get hit by something. So of course, at the moment, we are invincible. we got a purple. We're just gonna use it to upgrade our better weapon. Alright, and if we had light green, we would be able to fire through this wall and hit this switch early, but we do not. Oh my goodness, get. Sometimes it's a little tricky. There we go, that's what it's supposed to do. Trying to do that without the laser or the plasma can sometimes be a little difficult. Yeah, as you can see, these enemies are just taking in the bombs. They're immediately gone. Don't have to worry about them one bit. And there I switched my weapons around once again. That's just keeping Rippling Wave front and center. Because bombs, they do good damage, but you'll get more damage after you get the boss in the stun state using the Rippling Wave in the middle. And we do have the Hunting Sharks, which will now do burn damage to the boss, which will help us get the quick kill just that much faster. And of course we have all the pickups we need. We are going to try to avoid that yellow pickup, because we do not need it. We do have the satellite too, which can probably help us take care of this. Oh goodness. I held R slightly too early and started changing my direction. Open up. Oh, perfect timing. Yeah, got the quick kill. That skips an entire, like, 20-second long attack where she spits out a seed and then tries to attack with one of those vines. It saves so much time. And if it weren't in a marathon, I probably would not buy that weapon. But the fact that I had bought it did end up helping out. And that's something that we can do with the Playcoin budget we saved up. It basically costs about like 10 seconds and 1 additional Playcoin. Alright, and there was the first and only instance of the touchscreen being used in the menu map, or the map screen. And that is because it just saves a few D-pad inputs. And any time save is good time save, especially when it doesn't cost anything to do. And of course, now we get the flamethrower. 2 levels too late. So whatever weapons we get right now, we're going to take and we're going to spread out. Because at the end of this particular stretch of road... Carpet? This particular room, I suppose. There is a... Alrighty. There is a statue that comes in 3 parts. And the quicker we can take those parts out, the better. Because the screen will not advance until these parts are destroyed. Optimally, you can get that so the door starts to open before the screen stops. But with the weapon spread we get, we don't exactly have the best DPS. So we'll just have to take what we can get, I suppose. Oh goodness. I got so concerned for a second, because I thought I was going to get hit by the ghost, but snuck out of there just in time. So this game has a fair amount of RNG, but as we've shown, it's fairly easy to work around, and there's not anything that's like a super run killer in the event you miss it. Like little things that save like 10 to 15 seconds. The run can for sure be completed, even if you we get the worst possible, like 12 purples in every level. Alright, those ghosts are defeatable, it's just a little tricky to take care of. Alright, we did not get a particularly good weapon spread for this boss. But we'll work with what we got. Oh, yeah, I'll put out bombs. Right, so there are 2 of these dapper fellows that we have to take care of. And we can get a quick kill on both of them if we do everything just right. Alright, we got one. First one's always the most important one to get. Because otherwise we have to do that attack twice. And then we have 2 of those and then this phase. Oh goodness. That was the weapon I needed the most. Alright, that works out. And this game does have analog movement, which is both more precise and personally feels more comfortable. There is still the option for the D-pad if those who are on perhaps older shmups would prefer it. Alright, so for this level, there is a 94% chance, and we have already gotten the chance. We were looking for light blue, dark blue, or light green, because those have the best range out of any weapon. And as we will see in a second, you absolutely need range for this level. So otherwise you would lose like 15 seconds, is it? Because we are stuck on a roller coaster. Our horizontal movement is locked. We can only go up and down. Now, fortunately, we did start off not only with a fantastic weapon, but one of the 3 we needed. So, the incredibly statistically likely thing did in fact happen. And we get half of our weapons right there. Alright, coming up there's an arrow that will change our path. We do not want this one. It will give you an easier but slower path. And additionally, you won't be able to score as many points, but again, this is a speedrun, so that doesn't make a whole difference. Also, that one doesn't have any fun loop-de-loops, and that's just no good. And you can see here just how useful Rippling Wave is at both dealing with enemies in the level and trying to take out bosses. Actually, I'm just gonna switch my hunting missiles to the front. Oh wait, oh goodness. It was just found out earlier today that you can save a handful of seconds by shooting the arrow on that second one. And I kind of autopiloted to not shooting it. I pointed my weapons away and everything. But we did get a fun loop-de-loop. That's not something you'd get on your average every day. Oh. And we did skip a weapon there. We have no real use for it at this current moment. Alright, and this is why we needed the range, because we can't approach. We have to wait for him to try to get close. Oh my goodness. Because otherwise, we'd have to spend probably another 20 seconds waiting for him to get close. Because he just kind of floats in and out of range for most weapons. Every now and again he'll do a charge attack, but we can just use the best weapon and skip all that. Alright. Coming up, we have another use of the Playcoin budget. And that is to buy a hamburger. And as you can see, this hamburger is coated in orange. That means he will give us the piercing laser, which oh my goodness, that was bad menuing, I'm sorry. Every now and again, when you try to do input with the directional pad or circle pad, it will not register, even though you think it will. I believe the reason is that in most of the StreetPass games, the menus have animations at play, and they will not register D-pad inputs during that time. So it seems like the animation's finished, and then you're off by like a couple frames, and then that happens. Alright, so this level doesn't have a whole lot going on. We're just trying to keep our orange safe, kind of stay out of trouble. I say as I almost get hit immediately. Oh, and throughout the run, I feel like I should have mentioned this, I do tend to refer to the weapons by both the weapon name and their color. They are referring to the same thing. Like some I'll just use the color, some I'll just use the name, some I'll switch back and forth. They are referring to the same thing though, so don't worry. Right, and you can see here just a preview of why laser is so good in this level. Because sometimes those cannons will act like enemies, and so the level 3 shot can pass all the way through. And sometimes they'll act like walls, where you only get the level 1 shot. Which one you get, it's not technically RNG, but on the scale it's at, we don't have any real way to control it. Because you'd have to get like sub-pixel perfect positioning, and like frame perfect weapon timing, or firing timing, I guess, in order to accurately take care of that. And that's just not feasible. Of course, if you like had marksman-like accuracy, you wouldn't even need the laser in the first place. But for humans and anyone who's not, you know, spending insane amounts of time trying to take care of the single boss at the end of this particular level, we just use the laser, basically. Oh my goodness! Oh, I thought that was the laser. That frightened me. All right, and it is very good that we got a cosmic cutter as well, a white saw blade, if I haven't mentioned it. The pink outline it has can destroy projectiles. And as you can see, it's a bigger, scarier version of an enemy we've already seen in the level. And like those enemies, we can just skip, like right there, we just spent like 10 seconds and skipped a whole phase. Like, he has an attack where he'll leave that ring and trap the player in it, and we just skipped it. And of course, these fireworks, you can't necessarily destroy them in time, but the level 3 cutter will just eat up those fireworks. Alrighty. And that is 3-3, and that is the amusement park world. Now we're moving on to the most polarizing of levels, and I can hear it already. The water levels. Now the first one is not as bad as you'd think. Because I'll explain more when we get into the level, but there's something in this level that is normally a hindrance in casual play of this game. But in the speedrun, it's like your best friend. Just building up the anticipation. Alright. So this weapon's going to be very useful in this level. Also, the gimmick are these jet streams, which will push us along. Now, if you're playing casually, you're like, oh no, I'm trying to build up my point score. Or build up my score. I can't rack up points if I'm being pushed along by the level. But speedrunners, we say yes, absolutely, please. And you can see here, normally you have to wait for these guys to turn around before you can attack them. But with the sticky shot, your attack can ride around the shell and therefore hit them before they're actually ready to be vulnerable. And hit the squishy bits, if you know what I'm saying. In this room here, I personally enjoyed a whole lot because we are in a big old current, and we can use that to get around the room really quick to take out these enemies. As long as we just keep aiming in the center, we are usually alright. Whoa! That was not too bad, actually. Not what I meant to do. Alright, we're just gonna grab this guy, because we need all the firepower we can get. I guess would it be all the water power? Yeah, this should be fine. We have 2 sticky shots, which is all we really need. Oh my goodness. That was not good. I'm gonna switch to laser. It's kind of tricky to actually get this enemy to... Alright. There's... Oh. Yeah, the sticky shot is a little bit fickle sometimes. I don't really know how else to put it, you know, like... Sometimes it'll just... I don't know if it's, like, based on what part of the enemy it hits, but that particular enemy has always given me trouble. But it's still the fastest way to try to take care of it. We had something like the hunting shark or the good old rippling wave, it probably wouldn't be as big of a deal, but at the moment we do not. Or we did not at the time, I mean. Alright, so coming up we have another tower defense level. Not a whole lot to say about this one. Just a good example for how much faster the Japanese text really is. And another thing, this is the only level where your ship faces the front. In a side-scroller, you wouldn't see that too often. So I personally just find that really interesting. Like, it's not necessarily something they could communicate well in a 2D game with 2D sprites. So, anyway. This level is just another tower defense level, not a whole lot to say about it. It might be a good time for some donations as well. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. But that's also... I'll take it. Now these air bubbles are not great for us. Because the plasma, while it does target anything and everything, it also targets anything and everything. So sometimes it'll pick up weapons you were trying to skip. Sometimes it'll attack things you were trying to leave alone. But if there is a bunch of enemies in the way and it starts going for the air bubble, then you're pretty much stuck there until you either fly out of range or the bubble is destroyed. And it can take a fair number of hits for a lower level plasma. but for the most part, it's not a huge deal for these kind of things. It's fair, I suppose. Oh my goodness. Well, that's the hunting shark down. It's unfortunate. We do have another plasma, though. I guess this is our loadout. There's not too much to get in the way. Well, okay, there is a fair amount of things that'll get in the... I'll put the plasma in the front. Yeah, weapon management is really, really important in a run of this game. Because, of course, it stops the screen. Just gonna switch those out. Oh, goodness. Yeah, he usually doesn't jump up like that, but what can you do sometimes, you know? Now he's gonna go over to this side, but we're gonna... Oh my goodness. We were only a handful of hits away from that quick kill. That quick kill, it seems so much closer than it really is. Because even if he starts blinking red by the time you leave, no one's ever gotten it before he goes to the back like that. Alright, and here we are going to buy a sticky shot, because it's going to come in super handy for this boss. And look at that, the face of a warrior. Oh, this pretty much never happens. We got a bunch of sticky shots all in a row. Bunch of pinks. This could be huge. Because, like, we buy one there because the chances of getting one are pretty bad. But then we just got two other ones right at the beginning. So these submarine guys with the exposed weak points, they're a little tough to deal with if you don't have sticky shot. But we got 3. So you can just take them out from a safe distance, no problemo. Like this guy, well, this one here is just, you can just hit him there. There's no real way to get hit there either. I'm trying to destroy these ships up top, especially the ones that are dropping those robot fish. Because those robot fish, the screen's about to change direction, and if you don't destroy the ships, they will follow you all the way down, and that's really annoying to deal with. Another thing that's annoying to deal with, in this level, there are starfish that will plug up one of your weapon slots, which is just no good. So there are 2 ships here. This is another section where progress stops until we finish. What did I just get bounced off of? We do target the top right one first because his hitbox is available to us right then and there. We don't have to wait as long like we do for the other one. And here we have a 200 IQ submarine captain who fires 3 rounds of shots and then crashes into a rock. I'd make a Titanic joke, but the ship was already in, you know, it was already completely submerged. It wouldn't really go over too well. You know, it's hard to sink a ship that's already completely submerged, you know? Anyway, we delay the invincibility pickup there, so we can use it to attack these exposed weak points without having to worry about all the maelstrom going on screen. I do not want that. I'm going to try to skip it. What might happen is that the game will just give it right to me anyway. Oh, nope, he's gone. In certain levels, like the tower defense ones, if there's a weapon pod on screen, when it switches to boss cutscene mode, it just flies directly to you. And this is why the sticky shot is so crucial for this level. Because this entire body acts as a wall, which we can send the sticky shots all the way around to hit the weak points when we otherwise would have no way to do it. So we get right up close, so all 3 shots are starting to travel around. I almost got a bunch of spikes all over me. Oh goodness. Alright, this is going really well. And this, if you can get directly behind him, you can kind of wiggle back and forth to keep him in place. But it didn't really pan out that way this time. Of course, he spends a long time exploding. Now that went really, really well. But for the most part, that boss is such a pain, which is why we buy the sticky shot in the first place. Because it actually has more phases than the final boss. And it's on the cuff much harder. Alright, we're coming down to the final stretch of levels. The end is in sight. So 5-1 is an average level, I would say. We're now inside the main space, I believe it's called a space dock, of the main villain's ship. Spaceship, I mean. He could talk, we could talk about the story, I suppose, of this game, what little there is. Oh, I almost got hit there. We are a member of the Galactic Space Police known as Mii Force, who protect the StreetPass Galaxy, a very, very good name, by the way, from people like Goldbone, who is the robotic skeleton we've been seeing every now and again. He has all this space stuff, and he is a space pirate, I do believe. And the dialogue he has is pretty... like, just imagine Skeletor, pretty much. Except sci-fi. Like, the English version, for me, or, like, whatever languages you happen to know, like, he has really silly dialogue. Like, it's pretty good, I must say. Like, back when I still used to run English version, before I got my capture card, I'd have a chuckle every now and again, even though I'd seen the text a good dozen times before, you know? Alright, so this room here, there is the destructible wall up top, which should and does pose no threat. If we had, like, let's say 3 or fewer weapons, we'd have to start dancing around the saw blades in there. But because we have 7 at this point, we are plenty strong enough to take care of the wall before we even have to worry about the saw blades. Oh goodness. And these blocks here, when you get close, within a certain range, they'll start acting like a wall. Which is a blessing and a curse. Because there are times where you're trying to take care of, you know, what's in front of you, and there are going to be enemies behind what used to be a wall trying to fire at you. But it could also be you don't have to worry about those enemies when you're right next to them, and you can instead focus on movement or what's around you. Ooh. Those two poor souls just got crushed by their own ship. It's a shame. One thing about this game is that it has particularly good music. Like, when people come to my streams, they're like, this is really good music. I'm like, yeah, man. Like, I think that's something that people tend to overlook, is that these aren't just throwaway games that nobody ever bought or no one ever played. You know, they have some real effort put into them. And, you know, with varying levels of success, there are games that do the Street Pass mechanic well. Like, I'd argue this one does it pretty good. Alright, now this boss here, very, very similar to 1-2, except he's gotten a whole lot more armor, and we can just go all the way around it again. Alrighty. Now coming up is the most crucial point of, what am I saying? Of weapon purchase in this game. Because there are rooms I'll explain, of course, when we get to them in this next level that are very, very slow without orange, or something that can shoot through walls, mostly orange. And we only got one, so I'm gonna have to be really, really careful with it. The thing, though, is that it's really scary to try to take on this particular room with just orange, because you don't have a great rate of fire. You can knock out enemies in one hit, but it's... goodness. Oh, I thought that was it. These rooms here, there are 6 of those glowing orbs in the middle. Well, up to 6 inside those spinning chambers. We didn't actually stick around long enough to see them spin, but they do spin. Alright, and for this room, it's faster to either pick up all the gems really quick or just completely ignore them. Because if there are gems available, none of the enemies will leave and the screen won't scroll until they're all picked up. So it's crucial that we do that. And we do have our good buddy the Rippling Wave back at it once again. I forgot to switch weapons back. That could have been a disaster. Just a good old treasure trove of gems down there. Alright, and for this one, it is just a skosh faster to use level 3. I didn't quite get the trick. Oh. But what you can do is on your way over, shoot through the wall, and then it'll take out the spinning chamber just a little bit faster. And trying to do this without orange, like if I had gotten a hit somewhere near the start and lost orange, that would have just been like a whole minute gone. Would have to like slowly wait for a cycle to show up in order to take out the little orbs in there. And that's just unbelievably slow. And here it's, of course, good to have level 3. You can just take them out right away. I never get this many rippling waves in other levels, I must say. Alright, and here we can scoot over to the left before that wall shows up and be safe from the enemies. And there they can try and fail to shoot us. Oh, got a backup weapon just in case, because sometimes this boss can be a little bit difficult. Now this boss is a much harder version of the one we saw in 1-3. You might recognize this guy with the 4 shields. And he has twice as many orbs. Whew. That was a close one, I must say. Doesn't even matter. Like, when you get to that point, you lose a handful of seconds to take damage. But if we had, like, gotten hit at the start, like I said, that would have been way, 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 way worse. Not to mention the hit we took was from the back where we weren't even firing anything, so we didn't lose any significant amount of power either. Alright, and there's a pretty lengthy cutscene here before the gems spawn over here to the right. And again, that would be a good time for a donation, because it's just lore that we really don't pay any mind to, you know. Alright, coming up now is the final level. The last one. Our last round of heroes with play coins. Okay. Oh my. 3 purples is not a good sign, but 2 rippling waves, cosmic cutter, and lightning launcher kind of make up for it. So even in the event, like, we lose both rippling waves, we do have backups that don't rely on just purple. Now this final level, I've always called it montage music. And so, like, when you're like minus 1.5 and you're like, alright, I gotta play perfectly in order to PB, you know? Like, it just amps you up so much. Alright, and here we are going to use the laser just to take out these rows of enemies. Real quick, real easy. And of course we gotta pick up all the gems before we're allowed to leave. That's the only real use we have for orange right now. Oh goodness. Right, so this might look like it's not a screen stop, but the camera's just going back and forth in circles. So we do gotta take care of that guy ASAP. Like, a younger, less experienced version of me once spent like 45 seconds because he had no good weapons trying to wait out until he was ready to attack, not realizing, like, it's just not gonna, it's not going away because it's not, you know, it's a screen stop. Alright, I did mean to skip some of those purples out of spite, but oh my goodness. Oh, we lost a purple. Oh well. It's just not a good weapon for speedruns at all. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit too malicious. If you enjoy the color... Oh my... that's... Purple's revenge. Oh, goodness. It's okay though, we still have 1 rippling wave and 1 rippling wave to go. And then we do have the cosmic cutter as well. So we're gonna be a little short on firepower, but it's nothing we can't manage. Especially since, as I've said, this is not even the hardest boss in the run. There's one more weapon coming up. I do believe it's pink or something. Doesn't make a significant difference at this point. Oh goodness. Alrighty. It is time. So here we just have to dodge 2 enemy shots. These would be okay times for donations, but it is right before the final boss. Well, because it is right before the final boss. Alright. And there's a 3rd shot here, but they're not going to fire it off because they used the energy already. In the English version, the reason is they put the kettle on because he said he only needed to use 2 shots, which is just hilarious. Alright, so coming up, we have the final boss. It has 2 phases that we see, 1 we don't. Time will be when the entire body begins to explode, which is the 2nd phase, and I will say it then as well. And then I'll, hit the key to stop the time, of course. Alright, I'm gonna choose this hand. It does not matter which hand you pick as long as you target one and destroy it as quick as can be. Generally speaking, it is possible to hit the hand before they clash together like that. We refer to that as fast hand. Alright, eyeball attack. He has 4 attacks he can do. This one is the best of them. Well, 2nd best. Time. Sorry, it's a little difficult to react to that sometimes. But there you have it. That is Mii Force any %. Thank you for watching. I do hope you consider this game for the marathon. You do have a lot of backup strats in case things go wrong, and even if things go wrong, there's always something to do about it. Am I right? Alright. Thank you so much for watching.